In this episode of eCom Pulse, I welcome Kait Stephens, CEO and co-founder of Brij. Brij helps brands reclaim customer data lost in retail and marketplaces and drive retail velocity through mobile-optimized experiences. Kait is a leading voice in e-commerce and omnichannel strategies. Known as the Omnichannel Queen, Kait also hosts the Omnichannel Marketer podcast and is an active angel investor. In this episode, Kait shares her journey from private equity investing at PIMCO to co-founding Brij with her partner Zack Morrison at Harvard Business School. We've discussed the challenges and opportunities Kait identified in the retail landscape, particularly the lack of data and personalization in omnichannel shopping. Kait explains how Brij bridges the gap between offline and online shopping experiences using innovative tools like QR codes for better customer engagement and data collection. Kait also offers valuable advice for brands starting their retail journey, emphasizing the importance of omnichannel strategies, leveraging LinkedIn for building retail relationships, and the role of data in enhancing customer experiences. Tune in to learn from Kait's experience and gain practical advice for navigating the evolving retail and e-commerce landscape. Welcome to the eCom Pulse, your heartbeat to the world of e-commerce. I'm your host, Eitan Koter. Join us as we meet with industry leaders, marketing experts, and the innovative minds behind the tech that is shaping the e-commerce future. So plug in, gear up, and get ready for a pulse-pounding journey into the heart of e-commerce. Hey Kait, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Eitan. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. So, Kait, you are the CEO and co-founder of Brij, top e-commerce voice, and the Omnichannel Queen, right? Can I call you that? I think your friends are calling you.
They are calling me that.
You're the host of the Omnichannel Marketer podcast and angel investors. Wow, Kait, where do we start?
I mean, you tell me. I'm happy to take this any direction.
Great. So maybe just give us a little bit of background about you. I think you have a very interesting background and so many things that you are doing. So maybe let's start here.
Sure. So I started my career investing, and as a private equity investor, I was working for PIMCO, investing in omnichannel future of retail. And I truly was obsessed both from kind of the investor landscape, but also as a consumer about how the offline to online experience could be better. I just loved the idea of personalization on the e-commerce side and just saw a massive gap in kind of more of that retail environment. So this was something as a consumer I was thinking a lot about. And then on the investor side, I was actually talking to a brand that was selling through wholesale. And they were like, oh yeah, we have no data on our end customer. I realize this is like a $1 trillion problem that has just been a kind of the status quo in, what wholesale retail relationships have looked like for decades. But I think it's fundamentally flawed. So this was like definitely this aha moment that I had. I was also, jealous of the operators that I was investing in. While I loved the intellectual stimulation of investing, I really saw myself being a founder, being an operator. So I ended up going back to school. I went to business school at Harvard Business School where I met my co-founder, Zack. He's an engineer by background. And we started, iterating on a couple of different ideas while we were at school and, started working together, realized that we worked really well together. And we graduated in 2020 in, the infamous pandemic, which really accelerated a lot of the trends that we were already seeing. So, of course, e-commerce adoption skyrocketed. And what we saw in that behavior was your brands that never had a direct presence were forced to set up a e-commerce site. And so they now cared about and saw the value in setting up a direct relationship with our customers. The second thing that happened is because everyone was flooding to e-commerce, the cost to acquire customers, the CAC was, also going up. At the same time, you had the iOS 14 updates, which, further increased the cost to acquire customers. So the digitally native playbook that, the Allbirds of the world kind of popularized, it really, didn't work anymore, or it didn't work to us after a certain extent. So we saw your digitally native brands, because of all these different things, rising CAC, iOS, moving into other channels like Amazon and retail faster than ever to meet their customers. So they know, like more than ever as digital native brands, that value of that customer relationship. So we really saw this convergence. Your retail only brands coming, digitally, your digitally native brands moving into other channels. And the popularization of the term omnichannel, which you mentioned I'm the Omnichannel Queen, is something that I feel extremely passionately about. I believe that consumers shop omnichannel. Some define that pretty narrowly as like, oh, an omnichannel brand is a brand that like sells online and then owns stores. That's not how I define it. I define omnichannel very broadly. And I define it from the consumer's perspective. And ultimately, a consumer is going to shop and interact with a brand across a variety of different owned and unowned digital and in-person channels. And so that could be Amazon, it could be in store, it could be through, Target or even Target.com, and it could be through your own website. And so all those touch points go into how a shopper makes a decision to purchase a product. And I believe that the best brands, the most successful brands, will meet their customers wherever they want to shop. And that is how I think about omnichannel. Yeah. So that's kind of, the trend that we were really seeing coming out of the pandemic. And that's where the thought behind Brij came. So coming to that pain point of a brand losing the customer relationship when selling through retail or unowned channels, and then the need to bridge the offline and the online and that direct relationship. So that's where Brij, it's spelled Brij, but pronounced Brij, that's where that comes from. We're, collecting data and, bridging that offline and online for a brand, regardless of the channel that a consumer is shopping in.
Yeah. So I would like to dive a little bit further into this topic. And again, you mentioned the background for founding Brij and how you analyze the market and the passion you had for omnichannel. But if you go to any e-commerce marketplace, like if it's a Shopify marketplace or BigCommerce, we can find 30 to 50 probably MTA tools or like multi-channel attribution tools that are out there. But you took a very, I think, unique perspective in analyzing and actually providing solution for these offline and online type of experiences, actually providing some experiences offline through digital touch points and also digitally the other way around. So I'd like you to please explain the uniqueness and differentiation of Brij and what is the special angle that you took for this omnichannel attribution and some of the additional sales acceleration tools that maybe you're providing for retailers and brands.
So I think that you correctly pointed out there are a lot of tools on the e-commerce attribution or even, multi-channel attribution side, but they tend to really, be these e-commerce solutions. What does e-commerce make up? 10, maybe 15% of all of retail. So there's this massive unserved market of the retail shopper. More and more, I'm talking to brands about how that is, the vast majority of where their growth is coming from. And there are little to no tools to, drive traffic in retail, but then also know what's successful. So we have so many measurement tools in e-commerce and so few in the offline world. So I just see this like massive opportunity. That is like far and away what I am most excited about is there's just like such an untapped opportunity. And so the way that we approached it first was, okay, what is something that that will actually touch all of the channels? And that's the product that you're selling itself. So what we started with, also really driven by the pandemic was QR code adoption. And I definitely want to point out, Brij is not a QR code company. However, the QR code becomes a really interesting distribution point for you as a brand to connect with a customer across any channel that you sell through. And so the product, whether you're selling that in store or online, does touch the customer across all of those channels. So that's actually a touch point from the product is where we really started with this business. And we were early to market there. But, are seeing that we were right, that like brands are realizing that this does become this like untapped opportunity to have a consumer touch point. My perspective is, why wouldn't you? You have this opportunity on your product to share content, to collect data, to provide a better customer experience. Like it is effectively this billboard on your product to connect it to digital experiences. So that's really where we started. Like what Brij's, and I could dive into a couple of different use cases, but what Brij's differentiation is that we are building a platform that enables a brand to do this in a purpose-driven way, collects all of that data, but then also connects it to their existing ecosystem. So we're a Shopify app. We have a really deep integration with Klaviyo, all the subscription providers. And what we saw brands doing historically, and what we typically sell against, is a brand hacking something together themselves. So we've built a platform that takes 5 different tools, consolidates them, and makes it purpose-driven in a way that leads to higher conversion for the brand and a better customer experience. So I would say that's really where Brij's differentiation comes in. The other piece is that with this platform approach, I think that there's been other companies in the ecosystem that have point solutions. So, maybe they've focused on exclusively reorder, or maybe they've focused on exclusively sustainability transparency. And those are all really important use cases. But what we found is that the brand has multiple different actions that they want to occur. They want reorder opportunities, but they also want to share content. They also want to collect data. And those use cases are different depending on where the customer is interacting with that digital experience. Yeah. So the other, kind of compelling aspect of Brij is that as we just continue to build out more functionality that makes this really a powerful platform that touches the eCom team, the Omnichannel team, the retention team, the shopper marketing and sales team. So it becomes this very powerful tool utilized across the entire organization. And so that true platform approach, as opposed to a point solution, has been another key differentiator. But in terms of what bridging the offline and online means, I'd like to dive a little bit into how we're how we're replacing these hacky solutions. So if you've ever, and I'll take a couple of different examples because it looks different for different types of brands. So say you bought a blender and you purchased that blender at Best Buy, and then you brought it home, or maybe you bought it on Amazon. It is been a long-standing kind of activity by a brand to have some sort of warranty registration process. So you, as the consumer, are getting this benefit of the warranty while delivering your data to the customer. I don't know if you've ever gotten one of those cards where you need to fill out 100 different pieces of information by hand, write in the serial number, and then mail that in. That is what we are competing with. The extent to which that is a horrible consumer experience is just it's so easy to do so much better than that. Then brands started just, kind of creating a survey form themselves where they would collect an email in exchange for the warranty. Again, really rudimentary, so much this is this really important consumer touch point. So now let's think about what Brij can do. What Brij will do is we are purpose built for this, action, registering a warranty. So we can, enable functionality for different types of warranty on a product or even a serialized basis. So making it more frictionless for the consumer. We're also collecting the email first in a way that then sends a trigger to Klaviyo. So think about it like an abandoned cart flow. You don't finish the rest of the registration the brand can still follow up with you to get you to complete the other information. So information about what retailer it's sold through, all of this, what type of food they like. You can find out so much more about your consumer selling through retail. And then it's not just a transactional element. So historically, warranty registration has just been this is a transaction between the consumer and the brand. Now you can share recipes. So going back to our blender example, you can, post registration, have an embedded video. And I know, a ton about video that, shows the setup instructions for that blender and how to use it, how to clean it. You could also show recipes so that you're, promoting use of your product. And then, we work with a bunch of brands that, have a consumable portion of their product. So take Canopy humidifier, register the warranty, and then you can, purchase the filters for your warranty. So that customer experience is all enabled and supported by Brij. And then the data collection and management, stored on the back end. So that's, one way that Brij is utilized by brands like Black Diamond, NutriCook, Gosney to collect data from retail, but then also give consumers a way better experience.
Yes, it seems like you took a very traditional way of some kind of a process and just took it to the next level, or maybe kind of a future proof that helps consumers by providing them variety of content throughout this process, educational content and trainings, but also give all the insights. And those digital touch points are very, very important for attribution. Obviously, the data that the brands can use to further target or upsell or even help them with retention, right? So that's the idea behind it, I guess.
Yes, that's exactly right. We've taken a lot of, pre-existing, outdated ways that brands, truly are often hacking together or using very, poor consumer experiences and, have brought technology to it to make it a better consumer experience, have higher conversion, and then also automate with their tech stack. So what we've realized is that a brand needs to be good at 100 different things to build their business. And so the more we can make this so seamless and automate with their existing tech stack, that saves them time, it saves them money, it saves them much needed energy. So go ahead.
I mean, it seems that it's not just the operational side of things. It's obviously a more upselling opportunities, or this data obviously is knowledge that they can use. I mean, the drivers obviously are, again, on the operational side, maybe is it a cost reduction effort? Is it getting more understanding about the sentiment and what's happening with consumers, or it's more an upselling thing of opportunity? What did you realize throughout this process?
So I would say that the number one piece that we sell on, or the pain point, is the lack of data, of knowing who their customer is, or the ability to then retarget that customer. And so, our approach, so that's far and away the, collection of first party consumer data for our brands through these unowned channels. And that also includes an event where you could do some sort of list collection. So anything, these offline touch points. So that first party data, the ability to know, who you are, what you purchased, is that, number one thing that we're supporting a brand with. And then every brand is also using the content element of our product. So pain point is the data collection. That is tied to Shopify. So we are, tagging customers, whether they're net new or they've, shopped with that brand before. And so then we are able to enable resale both through our, through a Brij experience, but also bringing that customer into email and text flows for future purchases. And we track all of those orders. So you're able to see the increase in LTV of that owned customer relationship. And what's really, versus, when you otherwise had zero data about that customer. And we really view this as a harmonious relationship with your retailer. So something that I feel extremely strongly about, as opposed, in my view of the world, is that omnichannel, and supporting your customer, to shop omnichannel To do so, a brand needs more data. A brand with more data will be more successful as a brand and in retail, as in the retailer. So let's use Target, for example. A brand selling in Target will be more successful selling in Target by having more data on their consumers. And I think a fundamental, way of thinking that needs to shift, and I think that many brands believe this, but unfortunately, there's still, the way teams are set up, these don't always work together, is it is not like one takes away from the other. Consumers are going to transact where it is convenient for them. If people who build brands know it's really difficult to change consumer behavior, really difficult. But if you can inspire the customer, that is the easiest thing for a brand to do. Inspire the customer to shop you wherever they want to shop. So that includes, on their next Target haul, if you own that customer data and are, telling that customer about the next launch at Target or a new product, or then bringing that customer in and introducing them to products that you don't sell in Target, that is a win-win for the customer and the retailer. And so I think reframing for brands how they need to be structuring their teams and thinking about motivations to support this harmonious relationship, because I don't think that it's one steals from the other.
Yeah. That's another version of a win-win. You incentivize, you inspire, as you said, and you start to develop these harmonious kind of processes. I want to go back for what you said previously on the big opportunities on the retail side of things, right? And it used to be, maybe it is today for any brand, the main target to go to Target or to go to any retail and make this the peak of his probably go-to-market strategies. But we know that most of these examples are not successful, and the margins are so low, and most cases it's really was a wise investment. Although that point where you were able to execute a deal with few branches is really peak of your marketing efforts. On the other side, and you mentioned the COVID, in COVID, you would spend $1 in advertising, you get 5x return, and everything works on D2C, right? And now it's so difficult on acquiring new customers, and it's very expensive on CPCs across the board. So what do you think? Maybe maybe a macro look of what's happening, D2C versus the retail effort. What are your probably recommendation for brands today? And you mentioned the opportunity on retail side, so please elaborate on that and give us your perspective about D2C versus retail.
Yeah. So, this is something that I speak at, we talked about how I host my own podcast, and this is the main topic that I discuss with brands. Mm-hmm. And so it definitely depends on your category, how quickly you need to go into retail. We talked already about, the difficulty in changing behavior. I think another thing to consider is the weight of your product and the price point of your product. Categories that, can stay pure D2C way longer is apparel, because there's many opportunities to, grow the LTV of that customer because of, fashion in different styles, etc.
Low weight, maybe higher price, bigger margin. You can absorb returns and all the other operational, problems, right? Okay.
But your fast-moving consumer goods, lower AOV. So, beverage, for example, is really, really hard to grow D2C. It's not only, very expensive to ship because it's heavy. It also has a lower price point. And, consumers are, more used to kind of, buying that in C-store or buying that in the grocery store. So, similar element with kind of a snack food or, that lower AOV product where consumers are used to just buying that in stores. Those brands need to go into retail way earlier. So call it $1 million of revenue, versus apparel brand may be able to grow to 50, 100 million of revenue without needing to go into retail. So that's a consideration is your product, how a consumer shops, etc. D2C is a place to build your brand. So you can control the storytelling, many things about your customer. You have this constant feedback loop. You can, there's so many different attribution tools to track now, all of the different pages that they click on and then time spent before they transact. Then tie that to Meta. You just know so much about, how that consumer transacts, who they are, to then resell to them.
Sure.
But as we talked about, the cost to acquire customers is extremely expensive, has been rising. And, the snack brand selling D2C is competing with, Sonos that could sell a product at a way higher value for that same cost of acquisition.
Yeah.
So it's really, really hard to be competitive with a lower AOV product. The exception there is a brand that has like a really strong subscription component. So those type of brands can, survive longer with a D2C business. But the reality is, like, even a heavy subscription business, consumers start more than half of their searches now on Amazon. Like, Amazon is a channel that consumers want to shop on. And what I often hear from brands is that it's an entirely different consumer than, often that which is shopping them D2C.
Yeah.
But the reality is, Amazon is a channel that, brings distribution. Shopify is a channel that allows you to build your brand. You have a lot of limitations as it relates to the data that you own through Amazon, the, ability to build your brand. You have these templates that you're following, and, Amazon's definitely like looking to make that better for the brands, but it's not your branded, Shopify experience. Amazon owns that customer.
Yeah.
But they bring you eyeballs. They bring you customers in a way Shopify does not, and at a price that Shopify does not. With FBA, it's also very easy, like, to basically ship product, and Amazon will fulfill it. You can very efficiently sell on Amazon. We do not own that customer data. And then retail, increasingly gives you the distribution to really scale the next stage of your brand. You are going to take a huge hit on margins. You are going to need to shift marketing spend to, support whether it's, in-store marketing or retail media. But the scale it can give you overnight is business changing for a brand. One of the questions that I will ask all of my guests is, what does your breakdown between D2C and, Amazon and wholesale look like right now? And, it's often like we're 90-10, D2C retail, but the business is going to flip on its head by, in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And so the speed at which you can, get distribution provides a marketing channel for your brand, because as you start to, be seen on shelves, that is discovery, for your brand. You build your brand, and you may be taking a higher margin on a per product sale. Sorry, a lower margin when selling through retail, but you're selling so much more. That like sheer volume is the opportunity in retail. So, I mean, increasingly with the environment to acquire customers digitally, retail is the way that brands will scale their customers. And so that's where we really see the vast majority of brands needing to grow their business going forward, especially in this environment. And so that's really where Brij comes in. And that's when we're, the best fit for a brand. We've actually, have been building and launching tools that can also support retail sell-through. So we have a digital rebate solution that can be distributed through a brand's owned channels or, a QR code, which basically offers it's an alternative to a coupon, but it's a Venmo cash back for the product. We're collecting receipts from that customer. So the brand gets not only the customer's information, but also the basket of who they're purchasing. And so we're using AI to analyze those receipts and now bringing, data back to the brand when they otherwise had no idea who was shopping them in retail. They now know what they're shopping, who they are, and their entire basket. So that becomes really powerful data for them to go back to their retail partners with, to get better shelf space, get better distribution.
And you have that information because you're also putting effort integrating with the retailers themselves, and also they are contributing obviously some of the data points, but also what is your plans for enhancing the relationship with the retailers themselves directly?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So, definitely on our roadmap, we're looking to build deeper integrations. Walmart, Target, they do have APIs that we can build into that will allow us to bring more data to the customer. Even simple things like make it easier for the consumer to find your product in those respective stores. So as we think about, driving offers to consumers, how do you make it easier for if you walk into a Target or a Walmart, sometimes it is totally overwhelming. Even if you went in with the idea of purchasing this product, where is it? And so, those are just one of the many ways that we can, start to connect into the ecosystems of retailers better to service that data to the consumer and support the brand.
Yes, obviously additional layers of information, which makes the whole proposition obviously much more impressive. Kait, what's your tips for brands just starting their retail journey?
So, going back to what I said was one of the issues that I see is structure your company in a way that supports an omni-channel brand. And so that means the e-commerce team needs to care about retail, and the sales team who's in charge of retail needs to care about e-commerce, and those incentives need to be structured to align. When I talk to super senior stakeholders like the CEO or C-suite, for the most part, they get that. But sometimes the incentives below are not collaborative. And I think I've literally had people on calls be like, I only care about e-commerce metrics. This doesn't matter to me. And I'm like, you are missing the point here. So set up your KPIs to support the way your consumer shops, which is omnichannel. The second thing to think about with retail is, choose the retail channel that makes most sense for your customer, and don't bite off more than you can chew as it relates to, taking those retail commitments. And then the third piece of advice I would have is be active on LinkedIn and don't be afraid to reach out to buyers on LinkedIn. I have heard of so many different brands who have built their retail relationships on LinkedIn. And so I think that that's a really powerful channel for you as a brand to cut through the noise, is on LinkedIn. So I think that that's been a way that I've seen brands kind of get their foot in the door when starting their retail journey.
So you mentioned LinkedIn. I wanted to ask you, you're definitely a good example of a founder-led growth strategy, right? So you create a lot of content out there, you build in public, and you share a lot of your personal story as well. Tell us what drove you to start, be active on LinkedIn, and how this journey is going on.
Yeah, so LinkedIn has always been a channel that has felt really natural and organic to me. So I, would post every once in a while. And then we brought on someone on the marketing side who proposed this concept of, founder brand. And I actually read a book about it by Dave Gerhardt.
Yes.
But basically the concept is that people buy, even B2B, people buy from people. And, in reflecting on, what was working at Brij before I started this strategy versus wasn't, we had a marketing problem. When we talked to customers, they closed, and they loved our product, but we weren't getting to enough customers quickly enough. And, this founder brand strategy has really helped solve that problem. And so I post, basically it's people, I share on LinkedIn about what we're doing at Brij, what, who I am, what our company is, and omnichannel, kind of the space that we're building in. So that when people are ready to buy and looking for the solution, they know about us, and they trust us, through an extension of me. And that has been a business changing strategy for us. I would say over half of our leads come inbound in some way influenced by LinkedIn.
Wow.
And yeah, we've closed some of our biggest and fastest deals with those because they're inbound, educated leads. They know me, they know Brij, they hear about the pain point, and they come to us when they're ready to buy.
Interesting. And it's important not to distract yourself, right? Just you know what you're expert in your background, and I think the world knows that as well within a few seconds. So focus on that expertise and create content around that, and become like a thought leader person on that specific topic, which obviously generates a lot of interest and captures like a lead magnet, right? All the audience that are probably relevant and target for that. Yep. So well done on this journey. It's really nice. I wanted to ask you also about your career. I mean, are you? And obviously, you studied a lot, but you're. The way you make progress and you develop throughout your career, is it something that you always had the passion to do? Is it something that you plan in advance? Maybe you had some great mentors along the way that push you for variety of position or ideas. How this growth journey for you happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would definitely say I have been so thankful to have some amazing mentors on my journey. My parents being those first ones, and then, at several different touch points, just like people who have been really influential on my journey. That being said, I would definitely say my career path has been very self-motivated. I was the kid giving myself extra homework. As my classmates hated me. They were like, "Why are you doing extra homework?" I just was very much self-driven, loved learning, and that continues to be really what motivates me. I definitely always had an itch to be a founder. My dad was a serial founder himself, so I saw that and was very interested in it, but actually took a pretty traditional career path out of school, in the private equity landscape. Loved the learning aspect of it, but just wasn't stimulated in the way that I was hoping to be. And then, being on this founder's journey has been the best decision I've ever made. I feel like I finally I would describe my career path as a series of figuring out what I didn't want to do until I came to this. And this is by far the hardest job that I've ever had. Sure. Not the highest paying, but it is so intellectually stimulating. One day I am learning about SEO. The next day I'm learning about how to hire engineers. The extent to which it has I have learned, and it has stretched my kind of just every skill set. That to me is what I'm motivated by and what's so fun. And so I would say that is what has driven a lot of my career opportunities. I am a hard worker. And I think a critical element of being a founder is that you have grit. You get knocked down so many times, sometimes so many times in a single day. You have a million investors tell you that it's not going to work. You have customers who, don't buy or churn. And, those are a lot of punches that you have to learn to take and kind of, and get through. So I have definitely established grit, throughout my lifetime as well, which has allowed me to, and it's still something I'm continuing to kind of build and develop, because there are certainly times where those punches hurt more and I'm licking my wounds. But what I've found is the more I can lean into it and learn from it and, take those opportunities to learn from failure, but it's not really failure if you're learning.
Yeah. Interesting. And as a woman founder, do you have some, do you have anything to share or anything to maybe comment to other women founders out there? Any special experiences that you learned from?
Oh, I have so many thoughts here. As you know, I, speak and write about this topic pretty extensively.
Yeah.
And female founded businesses get less than 2% of venture capital. And so we're, lucky to, not lucky, we deserved it. We have venture backing, but we are in the minority. There are so many things that I can talk about here. Where do I even start? One thing that I, have been speaking about pretty frequently, I have two babies. One is 2, one is 8 weeks old. And so female founders will often ask me, like, I cannot, like, being a founder is so hard. I could not possibly imagine like having a baby right now. And so my piece of advice there is never a right time. There's always going to be something going on in your life, in your business. What's amazing about being a founder or even just being at a startup is that you can have more flexibility about structuring your life. And so you can do it. There's too many people that tell you can't. You're going to figure it out. That's like part of the mentality of a founder in general, is that you have that figure it out mentality. And so you'll figure out how to structure your life with the baby and with your company, both of your babies. And so, yeah, there's never a right time. Go for it. You can do it. And then, also what's amazing then is you can structure your life to support that. So, for me, that's like bath time is like sacred. No one's booking meetings. I'm home for them. But, then I can get online later at night and, and log back in and, work when works for me. And, this morning I had to go to a doctor's appointment for my daughter. And so I came into work later, and that's okay because that is my company and I could do that whenever I want to without answering to anyone. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice. I think that there's a lot of fear around being a mom and being a founder. And there's a lot of rhetoric around like not being able to do it. And I think like my pieces of advice is you'll figure it out. And there is no right time.
Sure. Okay, great. So thank you for these tips. I think it's really important, and you are really an inspiration for a lot because you also share the pains, right? Not just successes. And it probably teaches people a lot, right? And how to overcome things and how to get more confidence in decision making. Great. Okay. I know you shared a lot of personal stories on LinkedIn, but maybe you can choose just one, or maybe something that people are not aware of, like a fun fact about you that you can share with us.
Yeah. So, I acknowledge that I fall into this category of a credentialed founder. I went to Harvard Business School. That was like a huge dream of mine. And I know that it was a tremendous privilege to go there. I did not get in. I applied 3 times. I did not get in the first 2 times. And so just like, I was crushed the first time. I was like depressed the second time, and I still applied a third time. And like, I don't even know. I don't know anyone who has done that. So just kind of like building on that grit, like this was a goal of mine and I wasn't going to let them tell me no. It ended up being a unbelievable life-changing experience for me, and was, something that I really like didn't want to say no to. So, that is like not a little known fact. And then that created a ton of imposter syndrome for me, like, not getting in. And then like when I got there, I deserved to be there. So I think that like that, and I think that same story applies to, starting a company. I had so much imposter syndrome. Fundraising was not easy for me. But then I'm here. We still have a lot to figure out, but I also I know that I belong here. Each stage there's this imposter syndrome. Can we get there? Like, can we get to X million of revenue? Can we grow that fast? And, there's those different inflection points of imposter syndrome, but, I think that the grit, element kind of is a really critical part of, continuing to fight through those hard times.
Continue to fight at that tenacity. I mean, it's so important as a founder. Believe in yourself and just keep going, right? And overcome all these, blocks on the way. Mainly from other people telling you cannot do that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing this for like 15 years, also raising 5 kids on the way. So my real startup is my family. And then, that's my third startup already. So, and it's been going on for more than 10 years now. So it's really the only way for me right now. So, Kait, it was really, really a pleasure. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add or probably share where people can find you?
Sure. So you could find me on LinkedIn, Kait Stephens, Kait. And you also, can feel free to email me at kate@brij, BRIJ.IT. Always happy to connect, and, share like different, content that frankly, that about this journey that I've gone through, or on the founder side, or, in Omnichannel, always happy to chat Omnichannel.
Great. Thank you, Kait. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Your support means the world to us. If today's episode has been insightful for you, consider sharing it with someone who would also benefit. Even one share can make a big difference. Looking to elevate your e-commerce game? Discover Vimy, a multi-channel e-commerce platform that will transform your business with the power of shoppable video. Visit us at vimy.net to learn more. It's Vimy, VIMMI.net. Thank you for being part of our journey. Stay tuned for more invaluable insights in our next episode.